Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Warzone this year, when the Black Ops 6 integration takes place, is going to see some pretty significant game-changing updates. And these are things that really are going to drastically affect pretty much every single player. How you're building your weapons, how you're building your loadouts, and what that means for your gameplay as you load into matches this year. We obviously know that Black Ops 6 Warzone is just updating a ton in general, you know, removing backpacks, obviously introducing Area 99 as a resurgence map. Verdansk will be coming back in early 2025. So gameplay as a whole this year is going to be quite different. Omni movement's going to be a huge change as well. But from a fundamental just standpoint here, step one of Warzone is, you know, building out your loadout and getting ready to dive in. A lot is changing here, and I think some of it may be for the better, some of it may not be. There's a lot of things that will be impacted by this, and the one specific update that all of this sort of revolves around is Wildcards. So for the first time ever, when Warzone and Black Ops 6 get integrated with the Season 1 update for BO6, Wildcards are going to become a main feature in the game and with your loadouts. So they say with this, in addition, you can further augment your favorite loadouts by adding a single wildcard. Last utilized in Black Ops Cold War, and for the first time in Warzone, these allow you to add a modifier that would normally bend or break the rules of your loadout system. And obviously, in the beta, we saw a couple of different wildcards available, including Overkill, Perk, Greed, and Gunfighter. Now, these are not every single wild card in the game, but it just so happens that those are actually three of the most impactful ones that we can already talk about now and what they're going to mean for general gameplay. So the first thing here, Overkill. We've sort of become accustomed to using two primaries in Warzone pretty much forever. I mean, even back in Warzone 1, everyone was running Overkill on their loadouts. You could run your Grau and your MP5 or your AMAX and your MAC-10 or whatever the case was for whatever meta you wanted to take advantage of, right? And then they introduced the ability to have Overkill on by default, of course, with Modern Warfare 3 and everything. So you could just straight up get your primary and your secondary on your loadout, and you didn't have to worry about anything there. You could still run a pistol or a launcher or whatever secondary if you wanted to, but just by default, you didn't have to spend anything extra on your class setup to get two primary weapons. You could also go the route of having one loadout with one primary and then one loadout with another primary, and then get one from your free loadout, buy the second loadout, and get both of them that way. In a situation, you know, where we potentially didn't have Overkill, that still would have been possible, but with this Overkill now being a wild card, I feel like in a lot of cases could potentially end up being a major crutch unless you do want to, you know, rely on having to get two loadouts to select two different ones to get two primaries, or to have to go through buy stations, or just trust ground loot, which is always a gamble as well, right? So Overkill basically being the only means to guaranteeing two of your custom primaries on the same loadout is going to be a very, very big deal when it comes to, oh, should I be using this wild card or this wild card or that wild card? Because like I said, I think all of these are going to be pretty important. Let's talk Perk Greed here as well. The perk system in general for Warzone is getting a decent update here, and it's changing to the pick 3 system. So they say, though the majority of the Black Ops 6 loadout system is coming to Warzone, the perks are organized and chosen a little bit differently. Welcome to pick 3. The current way that Warzone utilizes perks is not changing drastically. Raven is simply bringing you the elements of the Black Ops 6 experience that work best with Warzone to this next iteration of the game. This includes returning past weapons, balancing the perks and other equipment on offer, and dropping in rotating and lootable perks into matches. So before you go and load in your loadout, you're going to be able to select 3 perks. So if you want to run Grenadier, Tracker, and Bird's Eye, you can. There's not going to be any tiers. It's literally just a list of, hey, here's 20 perks. Pick the 3 that you want to be using right now, which that simplicity I think is awesome. Not being limited to, this is the perk 1 category, you can only choose these 6. This is perk 2, you can only choose these 5. Then this is perk 3, you can only choose these 6. But there's you know, a ton of competition only in perk 3, so it's kind of obnoxious there. This gives you a lot more freedom, and I think that's pretty cool for sure. But then in addition to that, there's going to be lootable perks as well, so you can go through and actually find additional perks in game, and when you end up dying, your lootable pick 3 perks become a thing as well. So your perk package will actually drop, and then you can pick that back up, but it'll be specific to what you are running, similar to how we have it now, of course. And then specialist is also going to be a thing, which Perk greed for this situation seems kind of strange as a wild card they're bringing over, because if you can loot some perks in game, sure, you start out with your base 3, but then if you can loot additional ones, then why would you necessarily want to guarantee that fourth? Unless there's something you just absolutely can't live without. You know, you want to run Grenadier and Tracker and Bird's Eye, but then you also really want Ghost, or you really want Tempered, then you'd use Perk greed to get that fourth, but there's a chance you could maybe find that in game and just loot that, and then that kind of invalidates your need for Perk greed on that one. So that is a wild card that I think is going to be maybe underutilized, because I don't know if it's going to have an extreme importance. We're going to have to wait and see just how powerful some perks are, but obviously if you wanted to switch to Perk greed as a wild card, you then have to sacrifice for Overkill, so you wouldn't be able to carry in a rifle and an SMG. It'd have to be a rifle and then a base secondary or a pistol or a launcher or something, right? So there's that pros versus cons balance there. And then we have Gunfighter, which is one that, again, I think is going to have a huge impact on gameplay. And by the way, as we are going through all these changes, all these updates that are coming to Warzone, if you want to guarantee that on a daily basis you are always up to date with everything going on in COD, this is the place to be. Every single day I'm covering all the news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. Obviously with Warzone and BO6 on the horizon, so much news, so many updates are going to be surfacing. So if you want to stay up to date with that stuff, always be in the know, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy this video, a like rating would be seriously appreciated as well. But when it comes to Gunfighter, like I said, I think this one's going to be pretty crazy too, because this allows you to get 8 attachments on your weapon. Now, for what it's worth, it's not directly clear if putting Gunfighter on a loadout will also unlock this for MW2 and MW3 guns. If it does, that's awesome. Like, that'll actually make those weapons a bit more competitive, which will be super important for meta balance. But inherently, 8 attachments on a Black Ops 6 weapon, where all the attachments are a lot more forgiving. They're actually built and geared more towards making your weapon optimized and not making your weapon exceed in certain areas or excel in certain areas and then have harsher cons in other areas, like all the MW2 and MW3 attachments do, means that Gunfighter could be a major threat to meta balance, especially if they don't go through and update MW2 and MW3 weapons on a drastic level to allow them to truly compete with Black Ops 6 guns. But I mean, let's face it, we can all expect right now Black Ops 6 weapons are going to be the best ones in the game, because that's going to drive more Black Ops 6 sales for multiplayer and for zombies. I don't think that's going to be a surprising situation for anyone, but if they want any hope of having a meta balance between all 3 games' guns, Gunfighter 1 definitely needs to be available across the board, because if it's exclusive to Black Ops 6 weapons, that's just a big yikes. But then beyond that, you know, general balancing could be tricky with Gunfighter on there. Having 8 attachments to just fully go in on everything. You can have a weapon that has fantastic range, but then is also suppressed, has 0 recoil, and has great sprint to fire and strafe and then movement speeds all in one. That could be pretty nuts as well for building out a loadout. But again, you have to value the trade-offs. Do you want a weapon that has 8 attachments that is just absolutely nuts, and that's your only weapon because you're not running Overkill? So you have, you know, a base pistol as your secondary with a couple of attachments here and there, where you have to scavenge for a ground loot or pick up an enemy's weapon when you take them out. You're running a gamble there again, not depending on that second weapon in your loadout. So it creates for a very interesting trade-off situation, which I think is probably going to be pretty cool for balancing. Like, you're not always going to want to run Overkill, even though you definitely want to have 2 custom primaries, you know, to use and to switch to whenever you need, one for long range, one for close range. But you can kit out a weapon to be absolutely crazy with more attachments. That could just be crucial for winning gunfights with that weapon and that weapon exclusively. So wildcards are going to have a huge impact on Warzone gameplay and really change things up in a way much more impactful than what we've seen in recent years when it comes to how you approach loadouts. And that's just the wildcards that we know of as of right now. Of course, they might introduce new ones throughout the seasons as well. Season 1 adds in a wild card that does one thing, and then season 2 does more. Could get pretty crazy there for sure. Of course, as we get new announcements, new reveals, more solidified info on these systems and these changes, I'll be keeping you guys in the loop on a daily basis, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and never miss another video. And if you enjoyed this one, a like rating on your way out would be seriously appreciated. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.